Alright, so I had crawfish, tasso, and cream and noodles. I didn't want to go to the grocery store, so I'm going to make a crawfish tasso cream sauce over fettuccine. I like to top up all my onions and everything first. The onion, just the medium yellow onion. I'm going to cut that. Alright, so I've got my onion, my medium yellow onion cut up. I'm also going to use some green onions. Us in Louisiana love green onions. These have already been cleaned and ready to go. I like to use kitchen scissors when I do my green onions because it's so much faster to me. And I just love to use kitchen scissors anyway. So this is one bunch of green onions we're going to cut up and put in the bowl. You don't have to do this. I just like to have all my onions and everything cut up and put in the bowl, so when I start cooking, I just have to throw it all together. So next, I'm going to cut up some tasso. Tasso is a smoked meat we have in Louisiana. It's used for seasoning. It's a seasoning meat. And you can buy tasso in some grocery stores prepackaged. I think it's Savoy's. Richard's might have some tasso. I'm not crazy about it, but I have used it when I couldn't get, fresh tasso from a butcher around here or a meat shop. To me, the store-bought tasso, it doesn't have that deep, smoky flavor, and it's a lot saltier. You can really taste the salt and all the processed stuff in it. All right, so I'm just going to cut up about a half a pound of tasso. This is really good tasso from a meat shop here. Tasso is like a cut of pork, usually the butt, and it's been seasoned and slow smoked. It can be very tough. And the kind from the grocery store, the processed kind, it's not really that's tough. Is really good tasso. So real good tasso, you got to cook it a little bit because it can be real tough sometimes. So I'm just going to cut up about a half a pound tasso just in little pieces. And I don't really, this is just a recipe I'm just coming up with. I don't have a recipe for it. I'm just eyeballing everything. This is the ingredients I had to cook with tonight, so this is what I'm making. Alright, so I got about a half a pound of tasso cut up, a bunch of green onions, and one medium yellow onion. And I also have 4 cloves of garlic, which I'm not going to cut those up yet because I use a microplane to grate them in. Alright, now I've got a pound of crawfish tails. It's thawed out and ready to go. It may not matter to some people, but from Louisiana, we usually mind where the crawfish come from. So I always check and make sure that it is a product from the United States, from Louisiana. Because to me, the crawfish from Spain and China, they just have a different flavor. All right, so I'm going to take this, and I like to drain it. I like to drain my crawfish tails when I'm making etouffee, Creole, anything like that, and separate the meat from this juice with the crawfish fat in it, because I like to put all that in my sauce to get all the flavor. So we're going to let that drain while we saute our onions and tasso. So I've got my cast iron pot here, which it doesn't have to be that, it's just that's what I like to cook with. I've got it on medium heat. I keep all of my bacon grease, which I use it really quickly, but I just put it in one of these and I use it to cook. It just adds a lot more flavor to things. We're going to put a little bit of that in there. Let that melt. And then we're going to put our tasso in here and let it brown. I just cook it for, I don't know, about 10 minutes, just so it gets a little brown on each side. And then we'll put our onions in. Alright, so I've got the tasso browned. I browned it over medium for about 10 minutes or so. I've got my green onion and my yellow onion that we've already cut up. Put that in there. Stir that around, and then we're going to let these cook down. Like my grandmother always told me, you know, the onions are done when they turn translucent. Isn't that pretty? I just love those colors. It's so pretty to me. Got our onions cooked down. We're going to salt those a little. We're going to add our garlic. And you can chop your garlic. You can use the already chopped up garlic in a little jar that you get at the store. I just do this because to me it's a lot easier than chopping garlic. And it makes it nice and fine so it's dispersed throughout everything. And I'm using 4 cloves of garlic, but like I said, this is not a recipe really. It's just something I'm throwing together because these are the ingredients I had at home. So you can change the amount you put in there, you can change the ingredients. This is just what I had. So that's what we're eating. Alright, stir that around there a little bit. I've got it on like medium-low right now. And let that cook for just a second. And then we'll add our tomatoes and our cooking wine. I've got sherry. You could use white wine. I'm out of white wine, so I'm going to be using sherry cooking wine. And it's just this stuff. I mean, I know some people only like to use expensive wine for their wine sauces, but I use this and nobody's complained about it. So. Alright. I'm going to deglaze the pan with this. Let's see. I think I'm going to put, like I said, I usually don't measure. I'm just measuring for you to let you know about how much. I would usually just pour and do a turn around the pot, but I think I'm going to do, let's see, that's 3/4. Let's see. I kind of just have to look at it and see if it's enough. Yeah, that's about right. So I did 3/4 of a cup. We turn that up and let that cook down for a minute before we put our tomatoes in. And I have noticed that it does have a lot of sodium in it, and it can be very salty. So if you are using this, be careful when seasoning, salting your dishes, because it can turn out really, really salty. All right. Turn that up to high, and we're gonna let it cook down. I'm gonna reduce it down to about half the volume right now. So let that cook down, let it reduce. You can see that. All right. Now we're going to add our tomatoes and our seasoning, and then we're going to cover it and let it simmer for about 20 minutes. All right. So this is 1 can of petite diced tomatoes. You could use stewed tomatoes. You could use just tomato sauce. You could use rotel. You know, once again, this is not like a recipe. This is just something I'm throwing together tonight with the ingredients I had on hand. Okay, we're going to bring that up to a boil and then reduce to simmer for 20 minutes. Back to mention, this is when you need to put your seasoning in. Whatever seasoning that you want to use. Put some black pepper. And that Tasso already has a bunch of red pepper on it. And I have no idea what the measurements are. I just, the seasoning, I just go by, look, well, you know, what I'm used to putting in there. So you season with whatever you want. You know, I would recommend salt, pepper, garlic powder, a little bit of onion powder. And I know we already have the onions and garlic in there, but adding that powder, it just kind of, I don't know, to me it just makes sure that there's some in every bite. But by all means, if you don't want to add that, then don't. You know, if all you want is salt and pepper, you know, just do salt and pepper. Alright. I like my food heavily seasoned. So, You do not have to use as much seasoning as I do by any means. Just whatever you like. While our tomato sauce is cooking down, I've got a pot of salted water I'm going to bring to a boil for our noodles. And I'm using fettuccine noodles, but whatever kind you want, use whatever kind you want. Alright, so we've let that cook down. The tomatoes cook down a little bit. And now we're going to take our crawfish juice that we saved when we drained our crawfish. And we're going to add that. And we're going to let that cook for about 10 minutes or so. Bring that up to a boil. And then we'll cover it and let it simmer for about 10 minutes. So we let that cook down. I know I said let it cook for about 10 minutes, but I went ahead and I did an extra 5. I did 15. Just because I wanted the tasso to be tender. Because like I said, tasso can be really tough unless you cook it long enough. You don't want a big piece of chewy tasso in there. Alright. So I turn the heat down to medium-low. And I'm going to add my cream and my crawfish. Like I said, I usually just pour it in there and eyeball it. But, you know, for the sake of this, I'm going to measure it. So, 3/4. That's 3/4 of a cup. And I think that's going to be good. Yeah, so it was 3/4 a cup of the cream and also 3/4 of a cup of the cooking wine. Alright, now we're going to add our crawfish. And you don't want to cook the crawfish for a very long time because they'll get tough and just ruin them pretty much. Alright. I'm also going to add just a few fresh green onions on it for color and just that fresh taste. Alright. Then we're going to add just a splash more of cream just to loosen it up some. Just turn that up. And we're going to let it simmer. Once it starts bubbling, we're going to turn it off. Alright, so just brought it back up to a simmer. And just going to let that simmer for just a couple minutes because you don't want to overcook the crawfish. And if I had some fresh grated Parmesan cheese, I would definitely put that in here. But I don't have any. But look how pretty that is. It's just beautiful. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. You could just serve this separate if you wanted. Sometimes I do. This time I'm going to just put it directly in there. Makes it a lot easier to have everything on one. And also I like it to soak up some of that sauce. Ooh, dropped one. I'm just slinging this everywhere. Put just a little bit more. And there you have it.